Okay. It says God will remove the leaders. What was going on? All right. With the kingdom of Judah in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, it says, for behold, the Lord of hosts doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff and the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water. Let's read this in the NLT. Okay. The Lord of heaven's armies will take away from Jerusalem. He's prophesying against Jerusalem because the northern kingdom had already went off and fell into adultery. None of the kings of the northern kingdom did right. Jehu was one who did okay, but pretty much he fell off in the end. Of the 19 kings that sat on the throne of David, only about 6 of them did right. One did good in his, young age, but eventually went off. Josiah was the last king who sat on the throne of David who did right. Okay. And I believe what king was ruling at this time? Let's ask it here because I asked ChatGPT some things. What king was ruling during Isaiah, maybe the 3? What king of Judah? Good to know these things, right? Uzziah. There you go. Uzziah. All right. Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah. All right. And Isaiah was speaking against the kings because they were doing wickedness. Okay. And let me do this. I think I have it saved. Let's go here. Okay, this is still up. There we go. So I have this chart here. All right, now these are the kings. Come on now. These are the kings of Judah on the right, and the kings of Israel on the left, the northern kingdom. And as you can see, all of the kings of Israel did evil. So Jeremiah is prophesying to Israel around the time of Uzziah, who actually he did right. Okay, but they had started to fall off. Okay, remember Amaziah, he did wickedness. Okay, so this Isaiah 3 was written during the time of Uzziah or Azariah, which he did good. Okay. And you could look up that history, but I just wanted to show you that. Now, when you read it, pretty much if you read like the first chapter, it tells you, yep, the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, the kings of Judah. So there you go. All right. And many of our people fell away. So the Lord, when you read it in the NLT, it says, the Lord of heaven's armies will take away from Jerusalem and Judah everything they depend on, every bit of bread and every drop of water. See? Ezekiel prophesied the same thing. Jeremiah prophesied the same thing. Okay, the captain of 50 and the honorable man, the counselor and the cunning artificer, the eloquent orator, and I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them, and the people shall be oppressed. So ultimately the Lord just put a curse on Jake. They were ruined. Okay, now as you read this chapter, we know the leaders were going to get judged. The men were going to get judged. Okay. But then when you go to verse 16, it says, moreover, Yahweh said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go and making and tinkling with their feet. Okay. So they were very proud, man. Okay. Therefore will the Lord smite with the scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. Okay, and this is a curse that fell on the southern kingdom. All right, you know, a lot of the southern kingdom women, they say, well, how did the northern kingdom women still got their hair if and our hair is messed up? Well, this curse fell on Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and we'll show you, we'll prove that this is speaking of only the southern kingdom. See, so the Lord cursed you. All right, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. And that day will the Lord take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments. So they were walking around prideful, right? But with bravery, ornaments, and, you know, all into the outward appearance. The scriptures say a woman that liveth in pleasure, all right? Let's get that. Forget where it's at. I know it's in Timothy. First Timothy 5:6. And again, the book of Timothy, again, Timothy was being prepared to go rule over the church of Ephesus, which was, you know, the whole woman worship and, you know, Queen of Heaven spirit was heavy out there. Okay. So this is why you see a strict warning to women in this book, First Timothy 5:6, where it says, suffer not a woman to teach and a woman to usurp authority over the man. That was a issue, all right, in that region, a bigger issue than other places. Well, here it is. We're here in America, and we see the same thing. But she that liveth in pleasure, First Timothy 5:6, is dead while she liveth. See that? But you know, women who are all about pleasure and not about serving and not about, you know, their role and order given to them by the Most High, to be a helpmeet and a you know, a nourisher to the children and keep the household. You know, women look at that as slavery, and they want pleasure. This is what was going on in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. Okay, and I'm gonna get into this book to give you more insight of what was going on. So the Lord said he was going to take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, you know, those ankle bracelets and their calls and their round tires like the moon, those Altimas, those Maximas, those Honda Accords, right? The chains and the bracelets and the mufflers. Okay. The bonnets and the ornament on the legs, and the headbands and the tablets and the earrings, because they were all into their fashion. And we're going to show you that the rings and the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles and the wimples and the crisping pins, the glasses and the fine linen and the hoods and the veils. And it shall come to pass that instead of a sweet smell, there shall be stink, because they were going to go into captivity. They were going to get rolled on, all right, by the Babylonians, man. They were getting ravished. Let's get that in the book of Lamentations. Lamentations, the 5th chapter. Lamentations 5:11. All right, let's read 10. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. When a dark-skinned people, all right, you know, go into a famine, their skin gets darker. Showing you these were the dark-skinned people. All right. This is the kingdom of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi primarily, right? And they ravished the women in Zion and the maids in the cities of Judah. Princes are hanged up by their hand. The faces of the elders were not honored. They took the young men to grind, and the women fell under the wood. You put your ass in captivity, man. The elders have ceased from the gate, and the young men from their music. And this is going to happen again when, all right, the Babylon the Great rose. This happened at the time of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, what we're reading. But at the time that Babylon the Great sends these troops, these robots, their AI and everything, it's going to be even worse. And if you're not covered under the covering of the Lord, all right, You're going to be through. Now, a man could, to a degree, protect himself, although we know men going to be through. But what are women going to do? Again, they got ravished. See that? Isaiah 13. This is the reality of prophecy. We're not here to play with you people, man. Isaiah 13 and 16. 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined into them shall fall by the sword. Okay? Mocking the Israelites, right? Their children shall also be dashed to pieces before their eyes, and their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. You had Captain Tazariak say, well, grape ain't nowhere in the Bible. What does this mean? Come on, man. Let's just be real. Okay? Now, going back to Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. Okay? It says, and it shall come to pass, verse 24, that instead of a sweet smell, there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well-set hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher and stomacher, a grinding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Okay, it's gonna be worse than when COVID set in and you couldn't get to the hairdresser and you started to see y'all real hair. It's gonna be worse. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty men of war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit on the ground. So our women underwent an absolute judgment. Now let's get into this book, and then we'll come back, all right, with more scriptures, and then we'll end it off. As you can see, this book is called Our Living Bible. Old Testament text by Michael Aviona. New Testament text by Emil G. Kraling. All right. We're going to some good history. I've had this book for some time. And as you see, it says the sins of Jerusalem, explaining what was going on. As you can see, Isaiah, the 3rd chapter is quoted there, all right, which we just read. So to give you an understanding of what was going on in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, which led to Isaiah, the 4th chapter being written and prophesied, because we know that which is then is now. Okay, Isaiah's prophetic indignation was first aroused by the glaring religious, moral, and social evils that he saw in his own city. And as you can see, it says the sins of Jerusalem. Okay. The adultery, the oppression of the poor, the arrogance and sensuality of the rich and aristocratic, the empty formalism of the temple ritual, which was regarded as sufficient expiation of all moral failings. This blatant corruption was all the more painful for him to behold because of the contrasting idea of Jerusalem as God's holy city, which lived in his heart. Now I'm going to jump down here. As you can see, I have certain parts highlighted, but I'll just read from here to here. It says, one of the striking signs of this social dissolution was the decline in the traditional standards of austerity, especially in the case of women. So things got light on women, and they were able to gather abroad, and as the scriptures say, when you allow, drunken women to, gather abroad, there's no restrictions, there's no order, things can get nasty. Okay. And this is what we see today. This is why in the book of Timothy, as Paul was sending Timothy to be a head over the church of Ephesus, he warned him to not let those women speak and be out of order, because woman worship, all right, Diana was huge in Ephesus, and it had trickled into the churches. So Paul warned Timothy, all right, of what to look out for, what not to allow, and what to stand strict and firm on. Now it says here, one of the striking signs of social dissolution was the decline of the traditional standards of austerity, especially in the case of women. So things got lax. Remember, they were in Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, so they started to live as the Babylonians, the Assyrians. It says Isaiah denounced the ostentatiousness of the women in Jerusalem, all right, whose passion for material comfort and personal adornment drove their fathers and husbands to amass ill-gotten wealth, all right, pervert justice, and oppress the poor. All right, so to please women, all right, because as Esdras tell you, women are very strong. Women, you know, the concept of a woman as it pertains to a man, all right, when it's out of order, that man can be destroyed. So you had men to appease, you know, the appetites of the women, you know, try to get rich, you know, become demons, pervert justice, and oppress the poor. All right, this was happening, all right, to please the women. Okay, and it says, since the conduct of these women was hastening the downfall of Jerusalem, okay, they would be the first to suffer from its destruction, which would be followed by their utter destitution. See? Stripped of their gorgeous raiment and jewelry, the once pampered ladies of the city would go into exile, barefooted with their heads shorn. The upper class Israelite woman or women, like other Oriental women, Orient means going back to the East, of some position, paid no less careful attention to the coiffure. All right, and when you look up the word coiffure, okay, it deals with their hair. All right, I'll look it up real quick. The word coiffure, okay, it means a person's hairstyle, typically an elaborate one. All right, somebody can put it on the comment board. But we know how our women are into their hair shows. Okay, I had another book, you know, because we used to be into these books heavily when we first came in. All right, but and we still read them from time to time. But it talked about how they were doing hair shows, you know, and it's the same thing that our women do here in Babylon the Great. Okay, it says they paid no less careful attention to their coiffure than she did to her dress and adornment. So they was all into fashion, proud, right? Gathering abroad, talking crap. Okay. It says city ladies, all right, used to bind up their hair, curling and fixing its ends until their coiffure was well set. And today you got those rollers, all right, those hot irons, okay, showing you that this is talking about our people, all right. And this was the kingdom of Judah, okay, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So the Lord put a curse on Judah, Benjamin, and Levi of their hair, okay. That's why a lot of them struggle in that area. It says, city ladies used to bind up their hair, curling and fixing its ends until the coiffure was well set. Her hair was swept upwards and enclosed in a mitre-shaped headdress, the ends of which hang down over her shoulders. Okay, so our women's hair used to be long, the southern kingdom. It says a similarly formal coiffure is also found on the statues of the goddess Ashtoreth, exacerbated in Palestine. Ultimately, Israel will be compelled to submit to the yoke of the Assyrian oppressor. Okay, this comparison of the captive's harsh lot to the yoke in which the farm animals worked in common is commonly used in the Old Testament to depict the enslavement of Israel and the great powers of the ancient world. Isaiah's words here give us a vivid and exact picture of what actually happened in those countries where prisoners of war were set to hard labor. So Jake went into captivity. And the women were a big part of that. The women were called out amongst, all right, the leadership and the men. So that's balance. You know, this is when you all hear us get on women, you think it's too much. Well, listen to what Isaiah is saying. The scriptures give judgment on wicked women, but as our women were being proud, as a matter of fact, what I did was I typed it in Chat GPT. I first asked, was Isaiah the third chapter speaking to the kingdom of Judah only? And it's basically said, yeah. All right, pretty much. Let's just get here. Who was Isaiah speaking to in Isaiah 3? Isaiah's ministry was to Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, the leaders in Jerusalem. So the immediate target is the southern kingdom, Judah, not the northern kingdom, Israel. All right, because you got a lot of our people saying, well, why does the northern kingdom get to have long hair and the southern kingdom get to, well, that curse, and this is specifically speaking to the southern kingdom. All right, just a short answer. All right, by the time Isaiah prophesied, the northern kingdom was already deeply apostate, as we showed you. Pretty much all of the leaders had went off. As you can see, all of these did evil. Jeroboam, all of them did evil. Omri, again, Jehu did good at some point, but he eventually went off. But at the time of Uzziah, let's see here. Pretty much the northern kingdom they were deep. They were knee deep in idol worship. The Lord was like, just leave them alone. And eventually, at the time of Hosea, they left, all right, the Assyrian captivity and came over to the Americas, synonymously over here with the kings of Judah. As we went into the Babylonian captivity, it was mixed, but Josiah was the last that did good. And the rest of these were set up on the throne of David by the heathen and were sellouts. Now, Isaiah 3 is directed against the southern kingdom, Judah and Jerusalem, not both kingdoms. This prophecy came before the northern kingdom's fall to Assyria, during that time when Isaiah was warning Judah about the same sin that destroyed their northern brothers. But I asked, what were the women doing in that time that made the Lord so angry? And then we'll get a few others and we'll close it out. Isaiah 3:6 through 26 focuses on the women of Jerusalem. The Lord was angry not at just the men, but also the women because of their conduct, reflection of the same pride, vanity, and worldliness. Okay, and we're seeing the same thing today. What were women doing? The daughters of Zion were haughty, walking with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes. The scriptures say you can know a whore by her eyelids. Them big ass eyelashes. It says haughtiness, pride. They carried themselves arrogantly as though above others. Seduction, wanton eyes, flirtatious look, seductive glances. As a matter of fact, let's get that. I believe it's in, I believe it's in the Apocrypha. Yep, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and eyelids. Wow. Man. Verse 6, but grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman. That is hell. Okay. A scourge of the tongue which communicated with all. She'll say anything. An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro, and he that have hold of her is as though he held a scorpion. A drunken woman and a gatherer abroad calls it great anger, and she will not cover her own shame. Shameless. They get drunk, say anything, do anything. Get on social media talking all kind of, shit. Just, if thy daughter, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and her eyelids. If thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. And see, that's what happened back in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. And that's what's happening here in Babylon. Okay. That's why the thought of order, all right, drives them crazy. Well, order is coming back. You're not going to be walking around like this in the kingdom. You're going to be in complete order, and you're going to love it. You're going to be happy. Okay. But this age is going to be met with some great destruction. All right. Horrible is the end of the unrighteous generation. Vanity in appearance, mincing, deliberate, showy walk, switching, showing your ass, your cleavage, showy luxury. They adorn themselves with costly jewelry that made sound twinkling with their feet. Okay, verses 18 through 23 lists dozens of ornaments, anklets, chains, bracelet, rings, perfume bottles, headdress, fancy bottles, fancy clothes. This paints a picture of women obsessed with fashion, beauty, and outward show, while inwardly they were corrupt. Why was God angry? Pride and arrogance. Their beauty and wealth gave them a false sense of superiority. See, that happened in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and it's happening here, to where the Lord brought a judgment. And that's where Isaiah, the 4th chapter, comes, because basically that same judgment is coming here today. Okay? Luxury in the face of national judgment. While the nation faced decline, they glorified in wealth and show, calling niggas broke, saying they don't want this. Okay, they not gonna deal with that. They want a high value man. They want a man that make, the 400K. Okay. All right. Then 4 baby daddy's lady, a tattoo, a bullet hole. Right. A lost job later, you looking at bottom shelf Brad, the same guy you clowned and made mockery of, man. He doing curls, watching Kevin Samuels, and he don't want nothing to do with your ass. Misplaced values, outward adornment mattered more than inward righteousness. Compare 1 Peter 3, 3 through 4. Let's get that. 1 Peter 3. First Peter 3, whose adorning, let it not be outward adorning of plaiting of the hair and wearing of gold and putting on apparel. All right. But let it be the hitting man of the heart, in which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price.